I can imagine though, especially for something like that where the performance especially for something like Bruce Almighty, where the concept itself is very high concept, it's very absurd.
Right, it's high concept comedy. Yeah.
So with something like high concept comedy, I can imagine getting those performances just right, so they're not like too absurd and everything, doesn't feel like, crazy theater. Like, what was there? Did you find that for something like Bruce Almighty that you would use a lot of different takes to kind of balance it? So maybe one line might be a bit more, grounded, and then the next line can be very silly to kind of do it. Or
right. No, you're right. You have to modulate it, I should say. You have to modulate the tone. So if you're operating at 100% and completely wacky the entire time, then nothing stands out, because then it just gets monotonous. I like to refer to editing stories, peaks and valleys. So you're going to have those moments where it's going to peak. It's like, oh, here's our funniest stuff, and then we're going to bring it down a little bit and let the audience just kind of settle a little bit before we're going to boost them back up again. If you maintain that high level, you just can't. You can't maintain it because it just tires out the audience. So, I mean, it's the same way with drama and the tension of, what's a fantastic example of dramatic editing and using comedy to break up the tension, because the tension is going on for so long. Jaws is a hilarious movie, but it's a dramatic film that's using comedy or little comedic bits to break that tension.
And how do you, because that is obviously a very nebulous thing that you kind of have to feel out. Was it something that you developed over time? Was there kind of, if we wanted to kind of give that lesson to our audience, like, how can you learn that or develop that understanding of creating those dynamics of a scene?
Doing it. Sorry, that's the obvious answer. But what it is your experience in showing scenes, sequences, entire movies. Like if you previewed a film, you're sitting with the audience will tell you whether it's too much or just not enough. If you sit and show people, like for me, I'll cut a film, everything's fine. I'll cut, let's say I cut a sequence. Okay, that scene plays great. I think it plays great. All right. So one thing I like to do a lot is incorporate my assistants with me. So when we finish a day, I always like to do like a debrief with all my assistants. And I'll bring them in the room. We'll talk about their day. We'll talk about what trials and tribulations they're going through. Okay. And then we'll look at what I've cut that day. And we just start talking about it. So it's like, okay, I'll play it. So for me, it's the first time I get fresh eyes in the room, and I'll show them the scene I've cut, and then they start critiquing. They'll give me feedback, what's working, what isn't working, or what didn't work for them is, the biggie is like, why is that not working? Is that not funny? Did the setup not for the joke not play correctly so that the punchline doesn't have the impact? What about this moment? Is there enough tension there? Did I cut away too fast? Did I hold it too long? And you just can't. And then after a while, you just like, forget it. I can't maintain it. I got to move on. So yeah, that getting people to look at stuff and it's so telling just sitting there while they're watching. You can feel it. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I've had that before, where you show someone a thing and all of a sudden the scene that you think this is perfect length, you start going, no, this is too long. This shot's gone on too long now. It goes, this shot where this character look is great, and then it's like, no, this is going on too long. I'm bored. They must be bored. Oh no,
isn't that? Yes, that is the truth. How many times do you sit there while showing somebody, and I'm already recutting in my head? Oh yeah, that's not working. That's not working.
Yeah. Have you ever had it where like you've watched it and then you've gone, oh, this isn't working, but they're loving it? Like the editor in your head, the audience in your head isn't liking it, but then they're going, no, don't change a thing, and you're like, oh no, we have to change a lot of things. Have you ever had that before?
I mean, I love comedy, so that's what I'm known for. Some of the most entertaining moments is we'll take the film out for a preview, any of those Shady Egg films you talk about, any other film I've cut for Kevin James or Monster Law, whatever. It always happens at least once, if you're lucky more, is stuff that you never thought was funny. You were just kind of throwaway and you're kind of blowing through to get to a bigger joke. And all of a sudden that line comes up and the audience roars. And it never fails. There's always one where it's like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Well, what? I didn't have any clue that it was going to be that funny. It's just, for us, it was like, oh, that's kind of a cute line. And then all of a sudden you get a preview audience of 300 people just losing it. And it's like, oh, I guess we did something right. That worked. That's always a great feeling. So, or it's just the idea of sitting with an audience and they're getting all the jokes, not necessarily finding ones that you didn't think were that funny, but just to play something through, and they're getting every joke. They're laughing at everything. And those are wonderful moments. Or you get into a dramatic section or dramatic film, and you know that it's playing well because you can hear a pin drop. You know it's playing. So that's great stuff. That's a great feeling.
Yeah, I can imagine. And also, like, so for something like Bruce Almighty, where you've got the main, you've got Jim Carrey, but you've also got early Steve Carell at that point. You've got Jennifer Aniston as well. Was there it must be very, ignoring what it would be like on a set, like when you're editing something like that.
Yeah.
Is there any kinds of like, I don't know, is there any kinds of ways where like sometimes you'll find that like when Jim Carrey's performance is a 10, because when Jim Carrey's performance is a 10, Steve Carell's performance is a 6, so you have to find a time where, in energy level, then you have to find, is there ways that sometimes you almost go, right, in this scene when Jim Carrey's a 10, we need to find a take where Jim Carrey's a 6 energy wise, so then Steve Carell can be a 10 in terms of the energy to balance that.
That'll depend on whose scene it is, because I don't want to step on Jim's performance if somebody else in the scene is not up to at that point. And it does happen because Jim is, you never seen anybody with so much energy. He can do all those takes.
Yeah.
But you're right. The actors that are also in the scene, they can't. So where somebody may peak at 3, take 5, maybe take 6, they're done. Jim's on 14.
Yeah.
And, you don't even see color in Jim's face until 8. So it's like, okay, so how are we going to balance this? Well, you're right. That's going to be a challenge. And like Jim's the star. So there's no way I'm going to step on Jim's performance because somebody else in the scene isn't really up to snuff. But it's all about what's important in the scene at that moment. 9 times out of 10, it's whatever Jim's doing. But with other actors in other films, it's the same issue. It's like when do some actors peak early. I've worked with some actors where their instincts nail it in 1, but the person they're playing against really isn't going to hit it until 5. So where do you go with that? So then you start looking at singles. It's like you're not gonna hold the master because whoever else is in the scene who's going to peak at a different point in the scene. So then it's not going to play as a oneer. You just can't hold it. Number one, that means the pacing is going to be off. So that isn't going to play. Then you start looking at going into coverage at that point.
I've had so many times where you film a scene and you have the master and it's great and you're like, oh my God, this is it. I just need this. This is a Steven Spielberg oneer, like that bit on the boat in Jaws. And then you watch it with an audience or you go, actually, this is too long. This other take, if I use some coverage and do a couple of cutaways, this scene instantly reduces down half. How could you create that instinct again, I suppose? What lessons do you have potentially for, someone just starting to understand that?
Yeah, that's a hard one to teach because that's timing. You have to be able to feel it. If I'm cutting a scene, that scenario where I've got this great master and how long will it hold? I can feel it. It's like, no, that isn't going to hold at that point because it's going to fall apart at some point. Or there's some piece of information that's going to require an insert or coverage, or there's something that needs to be pointed out that where you're going to cut away. It's yeah, especially in comedy. It's holding that means everybody's timing is perfect, and how long can you maintain that? If you've got a group of people that nail it, go for it. But yeah, that's rare.
Yeah, and what advice would you have on coverage for like a comedy? Let's say if someone's like, okay, I'm making this new film with Sim Jerry, this new guy, and he's up and coming, but he's got a lot of energy. Like if they were like, and I want to, I'm just starting off. What advice could you give to someone working with like a very high energy, hard working, super dynamic actor like that? What kind of advice would you give from, maybe from a pre-production to production standpoint to then make post-production a lot easier?
At least 2 cameras. You have to, because a lot of times, especially with that high energy kind of performance, will they be able to recreate that after they shoot the mediums and then to go in and do the close-up with the same dynamics? Odds are not good that they'll be able to hit that again. Lightning doesn't strike twice. So what I had learned early on, in comedy was you better have 2 cameras rolling so you can get your coverage, because there may be a flash of genius that only comes once in that scene, and it was that take. So that was always a recommendation. Yeah.
There's that famous phrase of tragedies in the close-up and comedies in the wide shot. Do you ever find as an editor, especially editing comedy, do you ever find it really difficult where you almost wish you had a bit more wiggle room? Or how do you reconcile that? If there's a shot like,
always.
Right, yeah, this, especially because, Kevin James films, I see like there's a lot of like pratfalls in that, and a lot of the time they work because they're in the wide shot.
Right. You have to go wide with Kevin because his comedy is so physical. But then Jim Carrey is as well. So it's in the same, it's in the same wheelhouse. That physical comedy, you want to be wider.
And how do you edit around that so you don't, so is it when you have 2 shots, is it always have 2 wide shots? Or is it like have some good cutaways? Would you...
Well, you'll want the good cutaways because like with Kevin, and the same with Jim, Kevin, there's so much comedy in his reactions to other people. And it's, his little, what? It's just, you'll go wide for some of the pratfalls, but then some of the other, with the dialogue, especially some of the well-written stuff where it's just the banter and then somebody says something and Kevin's like, what? It just, you want to be tied in on that stuff. The same with any actor. That stuff is fabulous. So.